and we can get started. So thank you everyone for coming today. I am Evangeline Reed, the Instructional Services Librarian at Aurora University, and today we will be doing a quick tour of search tips and tricks to hopefully make you feel more confident navigating the resources that you need for your assignments. So I'll start by talking about where to search, because that's the first choice you have to make before diving into searching library databases like a pro, as I say, and then troubleshooting, because searching doesn't always go the way we are intending or the way we're hoping right away. And the good thing is that there are some definite steps to try. And then I will turn off the recording and take any questions and answer those for you. So the first thing, like I said, is deciding where to search. And obviously today I will be focusing more on library databases, but the reality is that these search skills can be applied to the web as well. Library databases are strong in a lot of ways. You're going to avoid paywalls. You're going to avoid a lot of low quality content that you might find on the web, where you have to be much more critical in terms of evaluating the quality of your sources. It's also the best place to find books, especially digital books and scholarly articles, which are notoriously behind paywalls for the most part. However, the web has strengths too, especially if you are searching for, say, information about Aurora, Illinois. You're much less likely to find that information in a library database than you are to find it on, say, a Aurora organization website or the city website. It also gives you access to a vast web of information that the government collects. Data, reports, their websites, really quite a lot of options there. And it also allows you to find information and perspectives from people who may not be represented as well in traditional publishing. And I find that to be an important comment to highlight. When you're searching the library databases, there's actually a way to search across everything. And if you go to the Phillips Library website, that's the first thing you see. It's that blue box, and you see everything, a search box. It pretty much does like it says. It lets you search across everything that the library has. However, if you click this A to Z databases link, it will take you to a list of all of our individual databases. This list can be filtered by subject or the type of content. So if, say, you filtered to criminal justice, you would find 16 databases that we suggest for that subject area. Or by content, you might be able to filter by, say, newspaper articles to find our database of just the Chicago Tribune. It's important to note that databases are kind of like buckets of information. Each individual bucket has a collection of resources within it. So if you are searching a bucket, you may need to search multiple buckets to find everything that you need, or to find as much as you want to find. There are real benefits to using individual databases, though, since they often have specific tools and filters that are useful for that subject area or that type of material. If you were to click into, say, a list of, in this case, social work databases, you'll see 22 databases, highlighted best bets at the top, and on the right side, you will find research guides. These research guides are created by librarians. Many of them are specific to different course codes, as well as to general issues like social work policy research, or evaluating news articles, or accessing the DSM-5 or DSM-5-TR. So these are highly recommended resources that are created by librarians and are a pro tip, as I say. So let's get into actually searching. These techniques can apply to every library database, but I'm going to mostly be looking at Spartan Search. So that's what the screenshots will be from. I think one of the major pitfalls that we have when we go to search is that we ask questions. This is typical on, say, Google or Bing. We tend to ask our question in the search box, but in a library database, this is not very effective. Instead, if we are, say, looking for articles about how phonics help children learn to read, we want to identify the key words in our question. What do we need to find in an article for it to be about this topic? And in this case, there's two main concepts, children and phonics. I like to highlight that often we have the impulse to include a word like help. How does it help or how? But that's a really broad word that's used in a lot of different articles. In fact, probably a good 80% of articles will have the word help or how in it somewhere, right? So that's not a particularly useful term for searching. And on the other hand, an article could not have those words and still have what you need in it. So I usually tend to leave those words out. If I find an article about children and phonics, I often find the article will explain why we use phonics with children or how it's effective, even if it's on a micro scale. But if you are really wanting to do that, or you're finding you're not finding what you need with just children and phonics, I would suggest maybe a broader term, or I guess actually really it's more of a specific term like benefits instead of how it helps. Too many little words. From there, we can then come up with more words. And this is helpful because the first word we come up with may not be the strongest word. So for example, children, there's also the word child, elementary education, primary education. Instead of phonics, we could talk about things like phonemic awareness or reading instruction. And if you're stuck when you're doing this brainstorming, it is totally a-okay to Google and see what types of terms are coming up. Now, here's where we can take advantage of something known as the advanced search. If you hit the little magnifying glass, if you hit search on that Spartan Search everything box, it opens up a full screen version of the search. And I have a screenshot of what the top part of that looks like on the bottom of this page. You see, we still have that single search box, which we would refer to as the simple search. And next to it, there's an advanced search button. If we click that, we then see this has a lot going on. It lets us do things like specify the type of material we want. So maybe we do want to find a book, the language, the date range. Maybe we don't want articles that are older than 2008 or older than 2015. But the part that's really exciting is that we have multiple search boxes. So we can use these to break down those key concepts or keywords that we need to find in our search. So in this case, maybe I choose primary education and phonics. You'll notice that these different search boxes are connected by and on the left. So it's a little bit like a Venn diagram, right? Primary education and phonics. We want to find articles that are in that middle ground. You can add more lines. There's no limit to 2, but the more lines you add, the fewer results you'll get naturally. You might have noticed I used quotation marks. If I put quotation marks around multiple words, it tells the database to find that exact phrase. So those words together and in that order. And you can see I list a bunch of other phrases where you might want to use that. And I'm sure we could brainstorm a bunch more right now. But common ones include things like mental health, United States, social work. This is really a key to finding what you're looking for, as opposed to an article that just has both of those words somewhere in it. If you want to be a little bit more advanced, you can also use special characters to broaden your search. So an asterisk at the beginning of the end of a word is how I like to talk about it. It will give you any ending. So here I use it with Latin. And while I will get articles that just say Latin, and they could just be talking about, the Roman languages in historical times, it will also give me all of the different possible versions of Latino. There's also a question mark, which you can use, for example, in the middle of women, so you could get both the plural and the singular. The asterisk can be used with a lot of things that do have roots. So for example, a lot of medical terminology. Maybe you want to get cardiopulmonary and cardiovascular and cardiologist. A asterisk could help you get all of those search results without having to specify all of those different terms. And the question mark can also be used when you have, say, a British versus American English spelling of words that vary. Once you find an article that you're taking a closer look at, there's a lot to consider, but I always like to highlight a few key things to take a look at. For example, the publication date. Is this current enough for your purposes? The journal title will often tell you the perspective or the discipline that this is coming from. Is it peer reviewed? Will help you know whether it's a scholarly article. And the abstract will give you an overview of the article, which usually tells you the purpose of the resource and how they got there. So are they going out and collecting new data? Are they just giving you a perspective based on their own experiences? Or are they perhaps summarizing existing literature? Depending on what you need, one or more of those might be a good fit and others might not be. So let's say we have this item here. It's in my search results, teaching irregular words, what we know, what we don't know, and where we can go from here. I can already find a lot of key information without even having to click on this article. So for example, the date is highlighted right here after the journal title. 2020, relatively recent. I feel pretty good about that. I can then see the journal title. The educational and developmental psychologist tells me we're coming from a psychology perspective, specifically talking about development and education. That seems really pretty interesting to me, but perhaps that wouldn't be a good fit for you. I also in Spartan Search will see a little badge if it comes from a journal that's peer reviewed. There are, of course, going to be the occasional exceptions. By that, what I mean is there may be an article that's more of an editorial that is in a peer reviewed article, but pretty apparently is not a research-based article. And then if I were to click on this article, I would be able to scroll down and read the abstract. In Spartan Search, this is labeled as the description. That short introduction to the article is really a good place to start because when you're searching, it really slows the process down if you have to open every single article to take a closer look. While you are clicked in and viewing that article, you'll also find a list of subjects, and these are really going to strengthen your search. So I always like to take a look at these and write them down, literally. I keep a list of these subject terms as well as other concepts that I come across while I'm searching. I can use it kind of like a word bank. So when I'm ready to try a different search or when I need to maybe come at it from a different angle, I have some ready-made alternatives in front of me. It's important to use them exactly as they're written and spelled in your search because in that advanced search, there is an any field option. That's the default, and you can click it and choose instead of finding this word anywhere, I actually want to tell you that I want to find this word in, say, the subjects. This will help you find articles that are about a certain topic instead of just mentioning it. And it's a really, really useful, really important term for successful searching. You can also use another option in advanced search is instead of the and, you can click the drop down and choose not. This will help you remove things from your search results. And this is useful in this case. I'm using the example of not Korea. And you might say, why would you want to do that? Every once in a while, you will encounter research that has just really been done a lot about a certain population or a certain geographical region. And if what you're looking for is the United States, you may realize that you're having some trouble getting to that. It's not always successful to say and United States because not every article that is about the United States or about American people specifies that. We tend to write to each other, and so we don't always specify that when we're writing in English and publishing in American journals. So instead, saying not and taking out something else may help you get closer to articles that are a good fit. You can also choose to search within a specific journal. One example that's really a strong example is group work in social work. If you were to find one of the few journals about social work with groups, it would be a lot easier potentially to find articles that are a strong fit for your topic area. So you can choose in Spartan Search at the top to click that journal search button. Then you can search, say you could type in group work, whatever concept you're looking for, or on the left-hand side, you'll have the option to browse by different subject areas. Once you find a journal, you can then search within just that journal. So for example, within a group work journal, I could search for people with disabilities and see what types of articles come up. Now, once you find things you want to save them. And this may seem relatively straightforward, but unfortunately, students sometimes make mistakes at this stage. We're very used to bookmarking a page or copying the web address from the top of the screen, but this is not usually successful in library databases. That's because of the way you're authenticated as someone who has access. So instead, it's really important to use the tools that are in the database. If you want a link, you should use the permalink, which is a permanent link, and it's almost always signified by that little chain link icon. If you are in Spartan Search, the full text is not immediately there. You have to click through one of these options under View Online to access the full text, but it's usually just an extra second or two while it loads. You may notice that in these tools here, there's something that says Mendeley. That is a direct connection to a citation manager, which is actually a really cool tool that I recommend if you're doing a lot of research. It not only helps you cite your sources and create your bibliography for your papers, but also helps you keep track of those sources over time. So I have a really big collection. I prefer Zotero. In my Zotero that I have organized by different topic areas. And then when I have a thought, I can go back to the source that I had found previously. We do have a research guide that will help you get set up with these. They have connections to Word and different browser plugins, and they are free for within some various limitations, but really quite generous in terms of storage and use. There is also a pin feature in Spartan Search. So up at the top of the screen, the top right, you'll see a pin icon. And if you are signed in you just use your Okta credentials, you can then use that pin feature on individual articles as well as entire searches. And this is a really cool way to save material quickly. However, I always like to highlight that there are similar looking tools like folders in individual databases. So for example, EBSCO has a folder system if you are in a database owned by that company. And if you don't have an account with EBSCO that you are signed into, it will not save. So when you come back, unfortunately, it will be lost. And it also can be frustrating because if you are searching and you save some articles in an EBSCO-owned database and some in a database that's owned by ProQuest, you now have different lists in different places. So use those tools cautiously if you do choose to use them, but the pin feature should be relatively painless as long as you're signed in. Now, the good thing is that while we don't own everything, we have a vast network of other libraries that are willing to work with us to share their resources. So if you ever see under how to get it, request the article, go ahead and request that article. It will be sent to you via email in 1 to 2 business days. And you can also do the same thing with something like a book chapter. You can also request physical books, and this is a great option if you are near campus. On Spartan Search, at the very top of Advanced Search, there is an option instead of everything to choose all iShare libraries. That means libraries in Illinois that share books. And there are some massive research libraries in Illinois that we are very lucky to be able to borrow items from. So an absolutely amazing resource as you do research. And I think it's important to remember that when you're searching, if you limit to full text, as some students like to do, you may miss out on a perfect article, a perfect fit that you could have requested. So if you have the time for a 1 to 2 business day delay on receiving an article, um, don't feel the need to limit to full text. We can really get a lot for you. Another more advanced way of searching is to think about the connections between articles. So I say don't reinvent the wheel. Other people have already done research on your topic. So when you find an article on your topic, you can look at their references. And in fact, you can do this manually, but in Spartan Search and in many other databases, you will find ways to do it automatically, which makes it a lot easier. So in Spartan Search, you'll see red arrows. The ones pointing up are actually the ones cited in the future. So this article, Fear Memory, was published in 2016. However, I can find articles that were written in, say, 2020 that cite this article, which will give me a more current article on the topic. At least that's the idea. And the arrow pointing down, which should give you a linked list of every article that they cited in this article, or every source cited in this article. So let's talk about troubleshooting. These are steps you can take in any library database. Let's say you have too many search results. This is very common. A really good place to start is by filtering. On the left-hand side, you will see lots of different options. Maybe you need a peer-reviewed article. Boom, filter that. There's a subject dropdown. So maybe you have 3,000 results, but maybe only 400 are specific to, say, women or specific to social work. You can filter by that topic. You can also choose to narrow the window that the article was published in, your creation date. So maybe you started in 2010, but you realize you have 14,000 articles, so you'd be much more interested in narrowing to only see articles from, say, 2019 onward. And you can also select the type of resource you need. I like to remind students that articles aren't the only good source, especially when we're looking at ebooks. It's really easy to search within them to find what is a good fit for what you need, or to find the passage or chapter that has what you need in it. But that is one way to filter down to fewer items. And you can also choose to limit to available online if that is something that's useful for you. Another way to limit your results is to add another term. So we had primary education and subject phonics before, but we could add and benefits, and now we would have an even smaller overlap of potential candidates that would fit this criteria. Sometimes you'll get results that feel like they're not about the right thing, and that's where subjects really can be your friend. And sometimes it can feel frustrating if you don't know what that subject is or what those subject terms should be, because it is a controlled vocabulary. So there is a finite list of terms that are applied to these articles. I suggest taking a step back and searching for just one concept. So in this case, I searched teaching reading. And then I just looked at articles that were clearly about that topic, looked at their subject list, and stole some words. In this case, I actually did a combination. I did subject literacy and subject teaching methods. If I then apply that to, if I then specify that further with another element in my search or in my question, then I'm one step closer to finding what I need. Another thing to do when your search doesn't feel like it's about the right thing is to just confirm you have your spelling right. The database is going to look for exactly what you ask for, and it's not going to do the, oh, did you mean thing that Google usually does. And if you're using an acronym, consider writing that out. It's much more likely to be successful, because acronyms, as we know, can mean many different things depending on the context. This really applies to everything, but I find it is a useful tip for troubleshooting searches that feel like they're just not delivering what you feel like you're asking for. What about too few results? A really important concept is the idea that the first word you think of is probably not going to be the only or even the best word to find articles on your topic. So brainstorm, get a little creative. You might want to think about related concepts or synonyms, official or formal ways of saying the same thing, broader concepts or categories, and narrower terms or examples. I have the example here of mental illness, and a related concept might be abnormal psychology. A broader term might be mental health. A narrower term or an example might be obsessive compulsive disorder. In general, when I'm searching, I like to consider what concepts or terms or phrases experts are using. I like to think about the formal and official language that is going to be more common in published writing, because that's the language that will be in the articles you're looking for. Some other things you can do is use fewer search terms or even remove quotation marks, especially if you have it around a longer phrase. You can reduce your limiters or your filters, widen that range for the publication time, remove a filter for subjects or whatever may help you. And try searching somewhere else, especially if you are searching in an individual database. Try a different database or try Spartan Search, which will give you more results. If you are stuck, you should ask a librarian. We are experts at searching. This is our specialty, and we can help you troubleshoot, help you brainstorm keywords, and help you potentially reframe your question to get at what you're looking for. There is a form on our website where you can submit a question and get a response via email. We have a live chat that should be live anytime we are open. We have appointments. We do one-on-one work with you virtually or in person. You can call us, you can text us. And I have details about all of these methods and more at libguides.aurora.edu/research help. All right, so thank you for listening. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording and then take any questions from you.